Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day. Today we're going to do a little thing on airbrush practice. Nothing super crazy, but this is something you can do at home with little effort to teach yourself to use an airbrush a little better. Today I'm going to be using my Infinite Zero. What we're going to do is take a piece of paper and just draw a bunch of shapes, letters, circles, dots, whatever you like. You are going to need a cleaner pot, some paint that you don't care about. I'm going to use Vallejo Black Primer. We're going to prop this up a little bit. Okay, it's going to be difficult for me to paint at this angle with a camera directly in front of my face, but okay. Step number one, dominant hand, no glove, that's what you're using to control. Your non-dominant hand, wear a glove. It's not that big a deal. And if you use paint handles, designate a paint handle. For me, it's one of these old special edition red paint handles from Citadel. It's got paint all over it, it's caked up. Every once in a blue moon I might toss it in some LA Awesome and clean it off. But, okay. First up, a little bit of paint. Check the specifics on your airbrush. Every airbrush is different. Like this airbrush takes a different pressure than my Grex does. My Grex takes a different pressure than my other two Iwatas do. And my two Iwata, they don't take the same pressure as each other. Okay, so get in a habit. You put a little paint in there. Get you some airbrush thinner. I mean, water works, but thinner's cheap. There we go. Get yourself an old brush. Whip it around real good. Ta-da! Okay, we are ready. The one thing you do want to make sure, and I know it's tempting and it doesn't seem like a big thing, but you should wear a mask when you're doing this. Particles are all in the air. You should also probably do this outside if you don't have a spray booth. I mean, you guys can see my fan in the back here in a second. That fan is going to be rip-roaring loud. So just bear with me. What we have done here is we've taken a piece of paper, we've drawn a bunch of shapes and other things, wrote a word on it. It's whatever. We are going to practice tracing these lines. Now, for me, I'm going to practice doing it with one hand, and I haven't eaten yet, so I'm kind of, I got the old man shakes here. So let's fire it up. We'll cut on our fan. Let her rip. So this first one, we're just going to try and fill in the dot. Let's move our light up. Put this line. We'll put this line in. That should help. Yeah, that helps a little bit. Oh, I got this little bugger turned down. I forgot that this one actually has a turn down on it. Okay. Alright, so filled that one in. This one we're just going to try and chase it. Now what I'm doing currently isn't helping very much because, you know, old people, as I'm cupping my wrist with my hand. I'm painting at a very awkward angle, and I'm looking at what I'm doing through the view of the camera. It's fun. Let's give ourselves a little more paint flow here. There we go. Alright, that's better. Now, all this is to practice getting your control and everything else. This airbrush is not the best airbrush in the world. The only thing it's really good for is fine point. Let's back this thing up. How far can we go? Not very far. So, when you're using your airbrush, you can start close and slowly adjust your pressure, get a fine line. If you want something wider, you can slowly adjust and then spread back. This is supposed to be a detail airbrush. It's an Infinity 0.0. It does do a very fine line. I gotta admit, I'm not a big fan of this brush, and it's the first time I've ever used it, so we're learning this together. Painting inside the lines, if I really try, it's not that bad. It can be done. Yeah, I definitely prefer my Wada Eclipse. I do have an HP. I use the HP for priming. The Eclipse, this particular one has a small bowl on it. I much more prefer that. I can see over it better. My adjuster screws here. DHue on the bottom. It's a great tool. I find that it's better than the regular Iwata, and I don't waste near as much paint. So there are some details you can paint with an airbrush, but you're only going to get so far. And the key thing here is just to keep practicing. You know, maybe try filling in some stuff. This airbrush is actually pretty decent for coloring, and considering that it's supposed to be a fine line airbrush, it's not so good at that. Let's try taking off the cone. Maybe that'll help it a little bit. Pull off the cone. See if we like it anymore. Oh. Why is that better? That shouldn't be better. Yeah, that's better. So you're always going to get some overspray. We're just going to run this until the paint runs dry. When you are priming a model, you see how I'm running in little circles here? You want to prime in small loops. You want to lightly fog the model and gradually add more paint as you go along. And Another thing you can do that is actually really nice to do with an airbrush is when you paint a model, just push down on the trigger. It releases the air. You can use this air to dry the paint on your figure. It's a nice little plus side to having an airbrush. For those of you that have never used an airbrush, don't be intimidated. Don't practice on your plastic immediately. Go with a piece of paper. Squeeze the trigger. Squeeze the trigger and then slowly pull back. The further you pull back, the more paint you're going to release. And before you release the trigger, when you've got that paint coming out, push the trigger back forward, let the air blow for a second, and then let loose. What that does is it keeps from paint building up on the tip of the needle, which causes clogs. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer them later. You guys have a great day.